Welcome to Innovate and Conversate, where we discuss the latest innovations and trends in the business world. I'm your host, Jana, and joining me today is Mr. Dany Abboud, CEO of TopCat S.A.L. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So, to start off, is Lebanon capable of becoming an industrial country?
It's funny you should ask that question and saying becoming an industrial country like it's not. And this is really an urban myth in Lebanon, saying that this country is destined to be a commerce country or a services country, while in fact it's not. You know, even people who go back to the Phoenicians saying they were traders, actually the Phoenicians were industrialists at first. They did manufacture the urjuan and they did manufacture glass, so they were industrialists, and then they traded their manufactured goods. So Lebanon is an industrial country. Can it be more of an industrial country? Yes, of course. But then there are several conditions which need to be met for the country to become more industrialized, in the sense that it should increase its share of manufactured sales in the GDP. You know, when the crisis began, people were saying now the labor is cheap, so we can rely more on industry. And that is really a very skewed concept. In fact, if you look at a lot of industrialized countries, such as Sweden or Switzerland or Germany, the cost of labor is rather high, but their share of industrial products in the GDP is also higher than other countries where the cost of labor is lower. So it's not really an indicator, the cost of labor. It is more the cost of production, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later. However, I do believe that the Lebanese spirit or Lebanese way of thinking is very prone to moving from the traditional sectors, which are trade and services, towards more productive sectors such as industry and agriculture.
What would you say are the key sectors within the industry that hold the most promise for Lebanon?
That's a good question. Clearly, the IT sector is a very promising sector. And in Lebanon, we have a very rich fauna for this sector. We have a big portion of the youth which are very, very competent in IT. But that's not the only thing. You know, people tend to say that we want a lot of value-added production or very high-tech production. In fact, there is a niche that Lebanon can take advantage of in the lower tech sector. And this niche has been disregarded by several producing countries, and we can take advantage of this niche in several sectors. Even if we talk about, of course, it has to be relatively low in labor intensity, relatively low in energy intensity, because we have to look at what our country can offer. But anything where there is innovation, even in low-tech sectors, or anything where we can have high flexibility of production, and Lebanon can present high flexibility because we are not geared towards very large serial production. So we are very flexible in manufacturing. These sectors can be very promising for Lebanon, and they are in high demand, especially when we are facing countries which are today specialized in high number production like China or India or even Egypt and Turkey in the region.
So where do we currently stand in terms of industrial development?
Okay, when we talk about the industrial development, we have to situate ourselves on the scale of industrial revolutions. As you know, we are now in the 5th industrial revolution worldwide. I don't think in Lebanon we have many companies which have gone beyond the 3rd revolution. So, of course, there are some, but it is not the norm. Normally, companies are between the second and third revolution, which means that they are beyond the electrical serial production, but they are below the computerized and production. We cannot today aim for the fifth industrial revolution. We have to go through stages. But we can go faster than other countries because we can learn from other countries. So if we want to go to the third industrial revolution, which is what we call in late term the computer revolution, and then to the fourth, which we call the communication, this we can go rather quickly, provided we have the infrastructure. So we need to have proper internet, proper electricity, obviously, and then we will be talking about the fifth revolution, which is the collaborative, where they don't use robots, they use cobots, collaborative robots. But I don't think at this point, this is where we have to aim. We have to aim more towards somewhere between the third and fourth revolution.
What would you say are the main obstacles that are being faced by industrial growth?
I'm not going to. It's not a big secret that today our main obstacle is infrastructure. If we don't have the proper infrastructure for manufacturing, we can be the best manufacturer in the world, but we won't be able to ship properly. We won't be able to go through the roads. We won't be able to communicate on the internet. We won't be able to have electricity, and that would raise our cost of production. Because if every factory has to rely on their own generator, obviously this is going to raise the cost of production. Yeah. So we have this as a first hurdle, but there are also other hurdles. As I said, cost of production and a very nearsighted view by the successive governments, and when they look at industry or the productive sectors as the goose with the golden eggs, where they want to take immediate advantage of it instead of fostering and supporting these sectors for a more long view vision. The final difficulty that we have been facing since 2019 is clearly the access to finance problem, where the banking sector is now failing in all aspects. It has been failing before for the industrialists. It was not really providing support to the industrialists. It was mostly interested in the non-productive sector by getting, revenues where easy revenues can be made. Today, this is even worse. The industrial sector cannot benefit, and they have to rely on their own financing means, and that, of course, is a big difficulty, and it makes it much, much more difficult for industrialists to develop and grow.
How would you say that we can build a sustainable culture of entrepreneurship and innovation in Lebanon?
In Lebanon, we see ourselves as very successful entrepreneurs. And we don't know that really entrepreneurship is not having a good idea only. It is carrying this idea and taking it through the different stages of development. And this is where we lack competence, really. We have to be realistic. We are good at having ideas. We are not very good at carrying these ideas through. So we have to learn entrepreneurship, and we have not been supported in this learning. The problem in Lebanon for entrepreneurs is that failure is not considered as a learning experience. There is a concept of second chance, which in Lebanon is almost absent. If you fail, if you go bankrupt, that's it for you. In the US, for example, they consider this as a learning tool. So this is the kind of mindset we have to be in. In order to encourage entrepreneurs, we have to accept that they fail. Small businesses, 80% fail the first year, and of the remaining businesses, 80% fail the second year. So it is very, very common for a business to fail, for an entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial venture to fail. So if we don't accept this as part of the game, we are not encouraging entrepreneurship. About the second part of your question about innovation, today we are seeing a shift, whereas academia is more and more getting closer to the real world, let me put it this way, coming down from the ivory tower and collaborating with industrial companies, with corporation in research and in giving their students a hands-on experience. Mm-hmm. This is a kind of ecosystem which fosters innovation. And the more we push for this collaboration, the more we will have a very fertile ground for innovation in Lebanon. And I think we're getting there. Quite frankly, I am seeing a big difference in the past few years with universities getting their boot on the ground and getting their hands dirty, which is very, very promising for the innovation ecosystem.
Mr. Dany, this brings us to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you to our listeners for tuning in. We'd love to hear back from you on which topics you would like for us to discuss next. Until next time, stay innovative and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.